play with confidence. Serves it inside 50.
Inside 50, good hands.
Drilling it into centre half forward. That was end-to-end football at its best.
Back-to-back goals either side of quarter time.
They have done it, the Bulldogs!
I'd find somebody for you. There ain't no wall I will run through. In your corner when you're ringing the bell. Come hell or high water. I'd find somebody for you.
Yes, hello WAFL fans. Welcome one and all to another edition of Around the WAFL. It is great to have your company on this Thursday as we look ahead to a huge weekend of WAFL football action in both the Sullivan Logistics WAFL Premiership and the first week of the finals in the ATCO WAFLW. And we've got a bonanza lineup coming for you as the cream rises to the top in the WAFLW. We're going to have Nat Szelid from South Fremantle and Jack Schwarze from Claremont joining us in just a little bit. And in moments, Jack Sears from the Peel Thunder Football Club, the Peel captain, ahead of their big game against Perth on Saturday. Paul Persick's my name, and alongside me, one of the leading voices of Sport FM's WAFL commentary team, and the host of the Straight Up the Guts podcast, which you can see on Podcast Capital's YouTube channel. Matt Gribelich is alongside me for the second time this year. Welcome back, Matty.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate your company, and it's good to be back.
What a weekend we've got in store. We've got a huge round of WAFL football, and also the first week of the WAFLW finals. What a time.
Yeah, going to be a really good weekend of footy. I think, it's almost finals week starting now across the course of the competition with some of the games to come in the men's. You've got Subi and West Coast, which is going to be a beauty. East Perth looking to keep their season alive against the Bulldogs. Perth probably need a win against Peel Thunder too. So all to play for in the men's, and then obviously the finals actually starts in the WAFL Women's Comp, so it's great.
Absolutely. Both games on Sunday, and we'll preview those games a little later on. And don't forget as well, second instalment of our new recurring segment Around the WAFL Flashback. And this week, we're going back to 2010 and a very memorable day in September. You'll find out a little later on. We're going to have Jack Sears join us in just a little bit. But first off, some of the news items during the week, Matty. WAFLW really leading the charge with a couple of big stars getting the plaudits. One of them in particular, Isabella Shannon, who was signed up recently as a replacement player for the West Coast Eagles in the AFLW.
Yeah, she's a pretty destructive player for Perth, and we've seen that multiple times. I recall a game earlier this season where she had about 30 and kicked 6. So she deserves that. It's crazy to see some of the statistics from some of these players. I know you've highlighted Jamie Henry a number of times on this show. She's won your award, your medal for the best women's player this year already. So you'd like to see her get a go, but it's been good to see certain players getting picked up and getting their opportunity at AFL women's level.
Well, it's really a second chance for Isabella Shannon because she played at St Kilda as well, averaging 27 disposals, 5 tackles this year for the Demons, and averaging a goal in each of the 14 games. So congrats to Isabella Shannon, last year's Dara Kerr medal runner-up, getting picked up by the West Coast Eagles. A great opportunity for her to rise up to the top of the big-time competition. Ash Sharp, she's had a good year over at Swan Districts, and she, of course, won the Joanne Huggins medal for the WAFLW's leading goal kicker. 36 goals, 14 in 16 games. What a season for Sharpie.
Yeah, been great. That forward line is really potent from Swan Districts, and it's going to be tough for the other 3 teams, whoever has to face them in the finals, to compete against that. I'm not too sure how well the opposition team's defences are going to be able to contend with just the number of goal kickers that they do have, and obviously led by Ash Sharp.
A very potent forward line, it certainly is. Ash Sharp, of course, who had a 3-year absence where she became a mother of 3, really picked up where she left off before that absence. Finished 9 majors ahead of Claremont's Beck Anderson, who tallied 27 goals for the season. So a job well done to Ash Sharp. Sharp by name, sharp by nature, as they say. And finally, last of our news items before we get to Jack Sears, the State and National Combine invitees list has been unveiled, and WA is well represented, Matty, with Heath Mellely, the Lark Medal winner and Under-18s All-Australian captain, headlining 7 National Combine invitees from Western Australia.
Yeah, great to see. Really, there's a few of those players who made the All-Australian team in the Under-18s that really carried, I think, this WA lineup this year, and it's because they've been able to be they've been brought up really well, and they've been guided along the way in terms of their footy development from a young age. A lot of these players, your Melodies, who, his dad obviously played a great deal of footy. Benji Van Rooyen, great family, obviously a lot of talent there, and the list goes on. Leo Steed, we got to see him firsthand over the weekend at Bassendean playing against Peel Thunder, and the fact that he's playing league football, goes a long way.
At such a young age, too.
Yeah, so it's great. And Jack Sears, obviously, our guest coming up in just a sec, got to see him firsthand too. So, number of great young talent that hopefully get picked up pretty high in the draft.
Of course, that combine takes place in early October in Melbourne, a 3-day combine. And, of course, Heath joined by fellow All-Australians, as mentioned by Matty Grubelich, Benji Van Rooyen, George Gale and Leo Steed. Claremont being the best represented club, with 3 being represented, given their wealth of football talent and resources in the Colts competition. That's all the news for this week as we lead into another exciting weekend of football. And we're going to get to our first guest on a jam-packed show here on Around the Waffle. He is Peel Thunder's captain, and he is looking to lead his side to their 12th victory in succession. But they're up against a side who did beat them first time out in a thriller. Could he be in for another one? Jack Sears, the Peel Thunder captain, joins us here on Around the Waffle. Jack, hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Great to have you on the show. Big game coming up against Perth. Are you expecting a real big test from a Perth side who are going to have fire in the belly after blowing a big lead against Subiaco?
Yeah, no, we're expecting a real challenge this weekend. As you said, just saying Perth beat us earlier in the year. But they still beat us, and then obviously that loss on the weekend, we're expecting they're going to come out hot and respond. I'm sure it's going to be a tight contest to start the game off.
The game on the weekend at Bassendean, what did you take away from it, Jack? Because they really challenged you guys for 3 quarters, and then you were able to run away with it in the final term. Swans really challenged us most of the day. I think it was just trying to find that balance between our best footy and I guess that third quarter they really challenged us, and we weren't really playing our game style. Kind of fell into how they wanted to play the game. They beat us around the ground, but we probably lacked effort and intent for a lot of that quarter. And then obviously the way we responded and changed that effort around the last quarter, I think that's going to be a big talking point for us this week.
You've had a bit of a difficult season. Obviously, you missed 8 weeks in the league side due to injury. What have you seen from the side by, being on the sidelines? What have you been the most impressed with during that stint on the sidelines before coming back in the game against Subiaco 2 weeks ago?
I think the thing that's really impressed me is the way we've been able to connect throughout the season. I guess early in the year, the connection between just pretty much 2 squads coming together. You don't train with each other. You only play on game day together with the Freo boys and the Peel blokes. I guess the way I've seen that progress from the sidelines over the last probably 8 weeks has been really, really good to see. It's one really united group now, and everyone's enjoying playing with everyone. So that's probably what I've been impressed by most. And then, our ball movement was pretty nice when we get up and going. It was pretty nice to watch from the sidelines.
Hey, Jack, Jeremy Sharp been really well held in the last 2 weeks with some hard tags. How are you guys looking to try and help him out moving forward?
We definitely need to do more, just probably as a midfield group as well, helping him by laying a few more blocks. He's been playing a really selfless role, though, over the last few weeks. He's been blocking for other mids. We had a few clips that we saw where he blocked for Kari, and then Kari got the clearance, little things like that. He's understanding that he's getting tagged at the moment, and he's been playing a really selfless role, but we need to help him more so he can play his game as well.
Tell us about Toby Wan. He's been, navigating his way around the competition this season. Category B list rookie, NGA prospect over at the Fremantle Dockers. He's really made some great progress as a young man coming up through the ranks. He's got serious potential, doesn't he?
Oh, he's going to be a great player for a very long time. I'm going to say it now. He's got an absolute ripper of a leg on him. He's explosive. He's tough in the contest. We played him as an inside mid on the weekend, and he just showed that he's got the contested work under his belt as well. So, for an 18, 19-year-old playing first year of league footy, to have 30 and a goal on the weekend, he's just showing how capable he's going to be. And obviously, Freo's list is pretty strong at the moment. They're one side, so it's pretty hard for him to break in. But, it's great having him down there. He's showing the league what he can do.
Are we likely to see a few changes this week? Fremantle playing that away game in Melbourne early on the Saturday, so likely to take over maybe 1 or 2, and then Brandon Walker came off hurt at Bassendean, so are there likely to be a few changes for this game against the D's?
Yeah, not too sure. I think Freo might get a few back off their injury list. Obviously, we find out tonight what the team's going to look like, so I'm not too sure what Freo's plans are. I think Lockie Tardrew and Scott Tuia are both looking like they could come back this week, so they're both back from Scott's been out with illness for about 5 weeks, and Todd's Cook last week. So I guess there are probably 2 changes that might happen. I'm not too sure. I think they need a pass fitness test tonight. So they're both looking likely, but you're not too sure about any other changes. I guess, as I said, I know as much as you guys with the Freo changes, so we'll see what happens tonight.
Well, fingers crossed for Tuia and Tardru. If they do return, what a huge boost that is going to be. Jack, we really appreciate your time here on Around the Waffle. All the best on Saturday as your side looks to make it 12 straight wins in a row.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
That was the Peel Thunder captain and superstar player Jack Sears joining us here on Around the Waffle. So very interesting about those 2 players. You know, that could be a big boost if they do come back. But if they don't, you know, Peel are really going to have to maybe reorganise their midfield setup a little bit.
Maybe not necessarily their midfield setup. Sean Darcy's going to play for them again. And then you mentioned the likes of Toby Wan. Jack mentioned Jaron Carr, who's been in career best form. He's played, you know, his best footy in the last month or 2 for Peel. You know, guys like Chris Sherry, Tobin Murray can run through there. So, you know, their midfield will change if Tardru comes back, if Tuia comes back, but that only will boost them. If not, I think they'll be okay. Archie Caldo has been killing it in the reserves. He played last week, didn't quite go as well as he would have hoped. If we had more time with Jack, would have loved to have asked him about an Archie Caldo, but I think, you know, no matter what, and of course Jeremy Sharp, who I didn't even mention there. So their midfield's pretty deep.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
That goes to show the depth that they have got in their side, and the results, they certainly don't lie. We'll clear a break, and when we do come back here on Around the Waffle, we'll have a full preview of course, a big round of football, round 18 of the Sullivan Logistics Waffle Premiership season. We can't do the show without some amazing partners, of course. District Promotions, Front Row Screen Sports, Sullivan Logistics and Grants Car Stereo, proud supporters of Around the Waffle in 2026. More to come after the break.
Take it from me, great things happen at the Waffle.
Valentine Roads and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The Waffle is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the Waffle on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle. Paul Persick and Sport FM's Matt Grubelich, who also hosts the Straight Up the Guts show on the Podcast Capital YouTube channel, along with the great Sport FM work on Drive, and of course the award-winning Waffle coverage. He's joining me here to preview all the big action in the Waffle and WAFLW. And Matty, what a weekend we've got. A lot of 50-50 games in round 18. We'll start off with the game at Mineral Resources Park, live on Channel 7 at 2:10pm. Perth and Peel Thunder. Peel Thunder looking for 12 straight wins, and Perth, after they blew it last week, they want to get it back together.
Yeah, I know you've been pretty critical of Perth. I think that they gave themselves an opportunity to win that game. Obviously, they didn't take it with their, both hands because they were inaccurate in front of goal. But they've been really good this season. The D's, they've got a good list. We know what they can do through the midfield there with the two rucks, and then Constable, Sandover medalist, Brandon Parfitt, who's been unbelievable this year. A guy like Corey Byrne, who is relatively unheralded as well.
We mustn't forget Kane Johnston in the forward line.
Kane Johnston in the forward line. Clark was well held, so he'll want to bounce back this week with a few goals of his own, and he's in that race with Tyler Keitel for the Bernie Naylor medal. Not to mention Blake Schlensog, potential to return. We'll see where he's at. But, I think it's going to be a really good game. Peel Thunder, they've been unbelievable. We spoke about it just before. They're really deep. They've got potential changes to come this week. So how long can they stay up? That's going to be a big question. To Perth get them at the right time?
Well, that's that biggest question of this one, because if Perth do get them at the right time, that'll certainly boost their chances to finish in the top three. And Peel Thunder, they don't have to have any major reorganisation of their midfield setup, as you rightly put earlier, with the potential ins for Tardru and Tuia for this week, as we chat about with Jack Sears a little earlier. But Perth, why I was critical on them is they show great glimpses, and we've known that for a couple of years, but they need to do it on a consistent basis. The new Perth that was written by Mark Stone on the whiteboard before that game against Claremont needs to be shown week in, week out. And they did not show that after quarter time. They held Subi scoreless. They didn't take their chances. They let Subi run over them in the second half and lost by a point. They need to show what the new Perth is made of. They need to be more consistent, and they need to have more class, especially through midfield, where they were second to the football most of the time in the second half against Subiaco. So the spotlight's going to be, for me, on Constable, Parfitt, and even Corey Byrne to an extent as well. So the spotlight's going to be on them and how they approach this contest.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great battle in the midfield, as we alluded to before. Sean Darcy, he was really good in the second half against Swan Districts. I think he might have got a talking to and, said, let's get going. Even Justin Longmuir might have come out to him. So Sean Darcy, he wants to get back into that Fremantle side before finals, doesn't he? So you'd expect him to give first use to his midfielders. How do the likes of Parfitt, Constable, etc. match up with them and try and read off of what Darcy is doing.
I think they match up quite well, Constable and Parfitt in particular, because they were both on AFL lists as well, so they've got that experience and runs on the ball.
And so that's why, you speak about some of Perth's inconsistencies in 2026, but their top half is brilliant, right? They've been able to recruit really well, some ex-AFL players, a lot of, come from Geelong. But what about their zoned players, the players that have come through the Colts, the reserves, and are now playing league? That bottom half of the list still isn't quite there for mine.
Yeah. No,
right? And I think that's why we do see a little bit of inconsistency from Perth, right? Because you do still have some younger, more developing type of players, right? And Constable, Parfitt, they can only take you so far. The other younger players coming through probably need to step up a little bit and play some more consistent footy. They certainly have that with some great guys. Baxter Phillip, I really like.
Good defender.
Will Tilby, I really like.
Zach Harding in the ruck as well.
Yeah, Zach Harding's been, he's been starting to improve, but he's, and there's someone else that has been another recruit. So, yeah, in my opinion, Perth probably need something a little extra. They need a Schlensog to return for them to really be a true premiership threat.
With all that in mind, who have you put your backing in for this one? It's a 50-50 game.
You can't jump off the Peel train until they actually lose it, so I'm just going to stick with Peel and hedge my bets because, they've been unbelievable for 11 weeks straight, and I think they'll continue to do it. Like I said, I think it does start in the midfield. I think Peel, their forward line, it looks a little shaky without Charlie Nichols in there. Tregenza has stepped up. But yeah, I think Peel will get the job done just in a pretty tight game.
I'm going the other way. I want to see Perth really show what the new Perth is all about. Yeah. And if they can beat Peel in Mandurah, I reckon they can beat them at Mineral Resources Park. They've won 3 out of their last 5, keep in mind. But I reckon the matchup in the midfield is really what's going to stick out. They match up so well.
Do they who tags Sharp? I don't think they go with a tag, do they?
No, I don't think so, and that really is going to be my only concern, because if you shut down one, you've got to shut down all of them, because not only you've got Sharp there to contend with, you've got Banfield, Carr, Wan to potentially shut down. So I don't think a hard tag would be worth it in the end, from my point of view. But I still think Perth will get the job done in a close one.
I think a hard tag is worth it if you have the personnel to do it, and I don't think Perth have anyone that's a real true run-with player. right? They've got ball winners of their own. So I just think that's why we probably won't see the sharp tag, and Perth will just trust their system. But if you do have the personnel to do it, someone that can go with a Jeremy Sharp, then I do think you implement the tag.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens on Saturday at Mineral Resources Park. It should be a great game. We go now to Steel Blue Oval, and this game live on 7 Plus at 2:30 on Saturday. Swan Districts taking on Claremont. Swan Districts very competitive at home, but have the tendency to lose their edge when the game gets into the critical stages. And Claremont, well, they got back to their best last week with a 23-point win over West Perth. They broke that 4-game hoodoo. Now it's about teeing up 3 good weeks of football in order to sew up second place.
Yeah, going to be a pretty good game of football, I think. When you have to go to Bassendean, it's always a challenge, no matter where Swan Districts are on the ladder. But Claremont, they seem to have gotten going a little bit more in recent weeks. By all reports, at 3/4 time, Ash Prescott was pretty animated in suggesting, hey guys, this is essentially an elimination final for us, the game against West Perth, when the Falcons were challenging to an extent. I don't know if it was that dire in that it's an elimination final, but I can understand his point of view, and it's almost the mantra of what Fremantle have right now, one game at a time. Let's take it one game at a time leading into finals because it's so tight on the ladder. So Claremont, they lost Jaden Hunter. I don't know if it hurts them significantly because they've got Sam Van Rooyen to come in. He played a role, kicked 4 goals. And then I like what Ash Prescott did in moving Alec Waterman a little closer to goal. He kicked 4. I like that setup. And then they do have multiple goal kickers. I think they are the team that has the most varied goal kickers in the competition for this season. So your likes of Zach Mainwaring, Jack Muzica, Tyson Headland, these guys can step up and kick you multiple goals as well. I'd still like to see a little bit more from the Tigers in that aspect because I do think they can get into these low-scoring slogs. I like it when they find avenues to go a little quicker.
And that's where England and Rogers can come in, but we don't know if England's going to come back yet.
Yeah, well, England, they're saying he wants to get back. He's pushing, I think, round 19, round 20 maybe is what he's looking at. Might be a little closer even just to finals.
And we could talk about, that supply that comes in from Rogers, Alvarez, who's having a breakout year. That really can be rewarded by those avenues to goal because Rogers and Alvarez, they're really effective when getting the ball from midfield into attack, and it can be converted by those options that you mentioned in front of goal. They've got a very potent and varied forward line, Claremont. I'd say not as potent as Peel Thunders, but it's up there.
Yeah, I think so. I think I like Sam Van Rooyen. I think Benji may be even unlucky not to get a game in the league side there for the Tigers. So I think it'll just be too much for Swans over the weekend, who have been battling with injury. They put up a really good fight over the weekend, but no Lucas Impey in there. I wonder, does he come back in?
No Jesse Turner either.
No Jesse Turner. So, those guys will boost Swans if they do return, but I still think Claremont just have too much power for Swans.
They've just got class everywhere around the ground, not just in the forward line, their midfield, their back line led by Mountford and Hardesty have been working hard this season. They've gotten better in the last 2 weeks, but they'll be up for the challenge, Swan Districts, I feel, without, even without Impey and Turner if they don't come back, because playing at Steel Blue Oval for away sides can be a bit daunting, as Peel Thunder found out. They only wrapped up that game in the last quarter. And if Claremont get into this sort of low-scoring slog, as you mentioned, for 3 quarters against Swan Districts, how do they approach it in the last quarter? Because I haven't exactly trusted their last quarters this season. If you remember, they lost their way against Perth and they lost their way against West Coast at home. It's all about how they do it in these last 3 weeks. And I'm going with Claremont as well. Yeah,
and I think that that's their issue. That's the one thing they need to sharpen up. It's the 2-minute drills that they need to be doing at training constantly. How do we finish off games when it's a tight situation, when we're up by 3 points or we're down by 3 points? How do we either protect our score, or how do we attack and find a way to win?
Big game. It's going to be at Steel Blue Oval. Claremont looking to possibly sew up second place on the ladder. Then we go to Fremantle Oval. You and the Sport FM crew are at this one, and it's also live on 7 Plus from 2:30. South Fremantle taking on East Perth, a replay of last year's grand final. This game's critical in every sense of the word for both sides. More so, you would suggest East Perth. A winner and they keep their finals hopes alive. A loss and it could be bye-bye.
Well, it could be. It's not necessarily all said and done if East Perth lose here, but it is much better for them if they get the win. is it a similar game to last year's grand final? Do East Perth play that more possession-based game? Who do they get back this week? Maybe a few. Tom North missed. Who else missed? Can you recall? Or do we have to look it up?
Well, we still obviously are going to have to wait and see whether Brayshaw or Amajuri come back for the finals if they make it. Yes.
That's finals, but just for this week. Cooper Stevens missed.
Yes. We saw Wright and Burgill come back for the East Perth side, which was very valuable from their point of view after that shocking run they've had with injuries. But also, I reckon it's a critical game for South Fremantle as well, because they've largely not gotten out of first gear this year. They've been able to win games, but not very comfortably, and they've had to deal with continuity issues themselves with injuries and gallivanting to Europe.
Yeah, I think the Europe thing, it's done now. Noah Strom, Trey Rusco, they're back in Perth. So does Craig White give them a game this week, or does he play them in the twos? We'll wait and find out tonight. I think they're critical, those two players, to South Fremantle, and they can get them back for the last 3 weeks and build some momentum into finals.
And Matt Parker as well. He obviously eyed his game to come back this weekend in that game against East Perth. So that will add the spark. I've always said Matty Parker, when he's in the midfield, just adds that extra spark, and he can drift up forward and kick a couple of goals as well. They need him in this side for 3 weeks.
Yeah, they do. No one can really run with him in the WAFL. No one can match his class, because he is just so explosive. He's so dynamic, and he's a game breaker. He's the true definition of a game breaker, and we saw that only in his brief little comeback before he got injured again, Matt Parker. So he is going to be a difference maker, and as will Noah Strom, who's one of the best defenders, if not the best defender in the comp, and Trey Rusco, who finished second in the Burnie last year.
Question is for East Perth, if Matty Parker's going to come back, is that game breaker player, do East Perth have a player that can counter him as far as the game breaker role is concerned? Unfortunately, the answer's no, because both of them are, still sidelined. That being Amajuri and Brayshaw, who I've always considered as to be the true game breakers for the East Perth side. I don't think they have anyone that could go with him.
Yeah, I do wonder if Cooper Stevens had a very interrupted season, so I do wonder if he's that type of player. I think a guy like Kirby Burgill could be that player, but he hasn't really. He's regressed this season, unfortunately. I think he had a really good year last year, but you wanted him to build off of that. He hasn't really done so. He's actually backtracked. So he's someone who, I think if he puts his head to it, can be a game breaker type of player.
Can Anchor Scott fill that role as well? Because he's got a lot of possessions.
Yeah, Scott and North are more accumulators. North can go forward, kick some goals. Scott, he can, but not so much. They're really good players. They're really important players, but I wouldn't classify them as game breakers like you would a Matty Park. Matty Parker, Brandon Parfitt, Jeremy Sharp. These guys are the ones that sort of break the lines, can burst out of the midfield, out of stoppage. North isn't as explosive. Scott isn't as explosive. So that's why I do ask the question. Maybe a Cooper Stevens and a Kobe Burgill is that explosive type of player, but he probably needs to bulk up a bit and just, actually get his confidence in him.
And South Fremantle, and especially up against South Fremantle, who are hard to beat at home. They've won their last 3. They've got Ferreira, Bletchenden, Florenka firing on all cylinders in midfield. You've got Jones and Winder, who can link up well at half forward. So at Fremantle Oval, it's very tough for visiting teams in recent outings they've had there. And even with the conditions as forecast as they are, but you never fully trust the BOM these days, we never know what sort of conditions you're going to get. If it's dry, East Perth do have a chance. If it's wet, I've got to go all the way with South Fremantle, but regardless of it, I'm still going with the Bulldogs.
I'm going with the Bulldogs. I'm just going to stick with them. They're a top 5 team. They're the reigning premiers. They got it done earlier in the season, so I just think they'll get it done again.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that game live on Sport FM, big build-up from 10 past 2, so don't you dare miss it. It's going to be a great game with award-winning coverage right there on the airwaves. Now we go to the 4th game at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. This one, too, is a 50-50 game with Final 5 implications. Subiaco and West Coast. And that is live on 7+. And if you remember, of course, West Coast have won the last 2, including a thrilling finish in round 2 where the Eagles pulled away in the last quarter to sew up the 4 points. Can they do it again, or can the Lions extract a little bit of redemption to keep their hopes of 5th place intact?
Yeah, this is a massive game, right? This is almost an elimination final, this one, right? And we spoke about Ash Prescott suggesting that it was for Claremont last week. This truly is, because both teams are deadlocked, along with East Perth, we should make mention. 5th, 6th, 7th, right? So this game, it is all to play for, because it could be the difference come the end of the season in terms of who makes the top 5 and who doesn't. It's Master versus Apprentice. It's Jared Schofield up against Kyle Horsley, the two coaches.
Both were successful at Subiaco.
What sort of chess game will they play against each other? The AFL listed players for West Coast looking to try and get into that side, the AFL team. So they've got a lot to play for. They'll want to be playing WAFL finals too, but so will Subiaco. So both teams are going to come out really hard, you'd expect, and it's going to be, I think, on from the get-go.
I think it's really going to be one of the more physical clashes this weekend because it'll be on right from the word go. Both are wanting to play in finals. The Eagles players that wanted to get in that AFL side, they want to stake their claim. Subiaco have got that desire. They've got a blueprint for success. They've been able to challenge other sides above them on the ladder, but not really pinch those results. They're 5-5 in that ledger with 10 games separated by 10 points or less, with Subiaco being involved. With the Hickmott boys in midfield, they're showing class. Greg Clark has become more of a tackling machine in the last month. And with Ryan Borchett back in the side and being on form, kicking an average of 3 goals a game since his return, they've just started to gain a little bit of spark, Subiaco. And I think that might catch the Eagles off guard this week.
Yeah, West Coast have been really good. I mean, they've been able to score pretty high scores. Got it done against South Fremantle. I think they came to play in that first quarter. They were pretty unrelenting. Finn McRae's a really good young player who's
decent surname too.
Yeah, he's going to get up there and winning a lot of footy at the moment. So I don't know. I think Subi have been inconsistent still, and like we spoke about the last time I was on, I do think they're maybe a year away. So I don't know if I'm of the belief that, they've got some momentum building. They were good against Peel. They just won against Perth. Can they do it against an AFL-aligned team?
But the same thing can be said about West Coast as far as their inconsistency goes. They've fallen into the same bracket as Subiaco this year, especially in games where they haven't really been able to get the job done. You talk about, they've won against the reigning premiers, they won against East Fremantle, they lost to Peel Thunder, they really struggled in that encounter, and obviously they got thrashed by Perth in the Battle of the Co-Tenants. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they can remain a consistent side over the next 3 weeks, beginning on Saturday.
Yeah, that's very true. I like what they've done in recent weeks. So I think they might just have enough for Subi. Subi do have some players to return.
Sokol, one of them.
Sokol, Girolami, few others. So, look, it's a toss of the coin. In all honesty, Paul, I'm really looking forward to this game. How does a Fraser Rickson go up against a Matt Flynn in the ruck?
That'll be a good battle.
Good battle. Jack Mayo, really good utility type of player.
Stefan Gyro, we mustn't forget too.
Gyro.
Midfield and can kick a couple of big bags.
Yeah, it's honestly hard to see which way this game's going to go.
Well,
I think it's the biggest toss of the coin.
It certainly is. Well, who's going to flip that coin and make it come up the right way? I reckon heads for me and Subiaco.
Tails for me, West Coast.
It'll be a good game, this one. We've gone different on a lot of them, but that's what we like. We give our fans a lot of intrigue. Could be a good game, this one, at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. And so could this one, the last game of the round, at 3:10, a twilight fixture at HIF Health Insurance Oval, West Perth and East Fremantle on 7+. With both teams not making the 5 this year, there's still something to prove for both sides as they look to 2027.
Yeah, West Perth have been building in recent weeks, which I've liked. Tyler Keitel played more higher up the ground, played ruck this past weekend. Does he go closer to goal for this game? We know the Bill Monahan connection. I really rate him as a coach. So he's been able to get, I think, the best out of this East Fremantle team, considering the amount of injuries they've had, the losses they've had to AFL teams in Milan Murdoch, their best player, and Mitch Zato to Port Adelaide. But, the likes of Harry Marsh have been out, Tom Joyce recently out. The list continues to go on. If you looked at their SKG injury list across the season, it's been double figures pretty much for the entirety since round 1.
Its own hospital ward.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. So I think Bill Monahan actually has done a really good job considering the injuries, and I actually do think they might find a way against West Perth, who have been maybe a little disappointing, only having the one win. Like I said, they have been competitive in recent weeks. Blackie's 300th coming up very soon, so no doubt, the older guys are going to want to see the season off really well. The Keegan Knotts, the Connor Wests, these sorts of players, Tyler Keitels, as we spoke about. Are we seeing enough development from their youth?
Not just yet, because there's still some youth that's getting there. You know, we saw Harvey Sportenguy from the Colts playing the league side. He's kicked 4 goals in his first 2 games. What I liked about that game against Claremont was Keitel's moved further up the ground, freed some space for Sportenguy and Keegan Knott, who's, you know, been in one of his more better games last week against Claremont, kicking a couple of goals when they were able to challenge the former league leaders. And what's also very good about that is that the reliance on Keitel being that sole key forward is starting to wear thin, I feel. And if you move him further up the ground, get him 25, 30 possessions, and you free up the space inside 50 for guys like Sportenguy, Knott and Riley Sprigg to an extent, that forward line could look a little more versatile. I'm not saying Keitel should not play as a forward again, but if you free up that space, it just gives West Perth's forward line a little more flexibility because East Fremantle's back line have looked pretty suspect in recent weeks, especially after the first 3 quarters against East Perth. I feel that flexible forward line could really get the better of East Fremantle in this game.
Yeah, potentially. Oscar Smart needs a really good game. I think Jared Jansen, Robinson definitely. Jared Jansen's someone who I want to see step up a little bit because I think he's had a down year personally, and he's that flexible type of guy that can be a bit of a utility for them. So I would like to see him just lift his game a little bit. They need something from him, whether he goes even into the ruck for a little bit, up forward, see if he can kick a couple of goals. Jack Cleaver's the one for me, though. He's just a star. I think he can have 35 and kick a couple in this game. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he did something along those lines, and that might be the difference.
Yeah, I think so. You know, for East Fremantle's point of view, Cleaver, if he gets those disposals and uses them effectively, which he has done consistently across the year, that could be a bit of a difference in the end. But I'm sensing an upset here. I'm sensing that West Perth, with something that they've been building over the last 3 weeks, could get the better of East Fremantle in this encounter. And East Fremantle's coach, Bill Monahan, has got a great method, the West Perth connection, getting the best out of the young players that are in that side. I just feel West Perth at home, they want to get at least one more win, something to prove, something to look forward to in 2027, and I reckon it's going to be this one. So I'm going with West Perth.
It would. I don't think it's necessarily an upset. It wouldn't surprise me if West Perth won. I'm still going to stick with East Fremantle. Okay. I really do think that I rate the way they have gone about it. Considering their injuries, and they might have 1 or 2 returning this week too, so who knows, but I think the Sharks, I'm just going to go with the Sharks because from what I've seen this year, they have impressed me despite their injuries.
No, I will agree with you there. Sharks have been very good despite that mounting injury list that they have accumulated in 2026. Big weekend of WAFL football coming up with all 5 games on the Saturday. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to win those 5 games. Coming up after the break, we have got a huge WAFLW bonanza coming up. We've got Nat Szelid, the Forwards coach of South Fremantle, and Jack Schwarze joining us after the break, and a preview of the 2 semi-finals in the WAFLW as the cream rises to the top on the road to the Premiership Cup. Back with more after this.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Valentine rides and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate.
On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate, From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
Thanks for joining us here on Around the Waffle. Paul Persick with you alongside Matty Grubelich, and it's all thanks to the fine folks at District Promotions, Front Row Screen Sports, Sullivan Logistics and Grant's Car Stereo. Well, what about it, Matty? WAFLW Finals is here this weekend. 9 teams started, we're down to 4, and the road to the Premiership is drawing to its end. Claremont, Swan Districts, East Fremantle and South Fremantle are the final 4 teams. And let's get started with a huge WAFLW bonanza, Matty, with our first guest of this doubleheader. The first semi-final coming up, the People's Derby semi-final between East Fremantle and South Fremantle. And joining us to talk about the game from the Bulldogs' perspective is the Bulldogs' forwards coach, Nat Szelid. She's good enough to join us here on Around the Waffle ahead of this huge contest. Hello, Nat.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. Don't you just love a derby, especially when it's a final?
Oh, 100%. It's always a great feeling when we play against East Fremantle, and I think it's really great for women's footy as a whole to have a derby as a semi-final, even if you don't particularly come down to WAFLW. I think we'll get the crowd through a derby.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be a great game. Nat, I'm interested in you. Tell us a bit about your background. Started out at Claremont, South Fremantle, really wanted you to come across. Tell us a bit about your background in the game.
Yeah, so started coaching at Claremont when I was 17 years old, coached in the Rogers Cup then, and made my way up to Rogers Cup head coach for a couple of years. Alongside that, I've been coaching in the Next Generation Academy down at Fremantle Dockers here. And yeah, South Fremantle reached out, gave me an opportunity to come up to the league side, and haven't really looked back since. They've been an excellent club to coach with. They're an excellent club to just be involved with as a whole, and continuing now also working in the Next Generation Academy at Fremantle as well, so do a bit of both in my time.
Your role as forwards coach at South Fremantle, for those that are not familiar with it, what does that entail during the training sessions and on match days?
Yeah, so training sessions, taking drills, I really connect with the girls in the forward line in particular, being the forwards coach. So pre-training, during training, particular leading drills or skills drills that I think will benefit our team in offense. And then on a game day, coaching the forward line, so meetings, looking at our forwards as a holistic in particular, and that's both, offense and defense within that forward line there.
Do you see yourself as a future head coach?
Yeah, I'd like to progress up and see where my coaching can take me, and head coach is definitely on that pipeline pathway.
Yeah. And have you spent a bit of time in the men's program this year, just before we touch on the game coming up?
Yeah, I have. South Fremantle have been very giving for me, and they've allowed me to come and join the men's program for a week and a bit. And so I got to do a couple training sessions with them, sit in on their match committee, and on game day I was given a specific role to look at certain players throughout contest and throughout the midfield as well, and give feedback to the coaches and give feedback to certain players. But also it was just awesome just sitting in the back of a league waffle coach's box and to hear the language that they use and the way that they analyse the game to hopefully bring some of that to WAFLW as well. Was awesome.
That is great to see. There's no doubt about that. And South Fremantle, very family-orientated club, and they've done a wonderful job in that. To the game, this game on Sunday, this is huge. Sudden death, no second chances. The Bulldogs have been very impressive in their run back to the Final Four. What do you reckon is going to be the key to go up against an East Fremantle side who have largely defied expectations with a very young list?
Yeah, I think it's generally going to be a very tough contest and a good hit-out. We can't lie. They're a quality side and they've had some finals experience, and they've also earned their place in finals just as well as us. But I think finals often won around that contest and the pressure with the contested possession, and then taking your little moments as well and making the most of your opportunities going forward is really what we want to focus on, and we really just want to focus on playing our brand of football, and I think that's what will get us over the line this weekend.
How do you look to recover? Did you touch on the Claremont game significantly post-game, or did you sort of just say, let's move on, let's look ahead to this this big final coming up against the Sharks?
Oh, no, we definitely touched on it. I think every game of football gives you feedback, and football is definitely a game of growth and learning. And last week highlighted some areas where we need to get better against quality opposition or in a finals kind of simulation. And we've spent the week working on them, but at the same time, there were little passages in play where we saw some moments where we played the way we wanted to, but we just need to sustain that for 4 quarters. So we reviewed it. We're now looking forward to this week. And the best thing about finals is it's a clean slate and everyone starts with a new opportunity going forward. So we're really looking forward to that.
And what an opportunity it's going to be. Big Derby final on Sunday, Nat. We really appreciate your time here on Around the Waffle. Good luck against the Sharks. It should be a ripper.
Thanks for having me.
That was Nat Szelid, the Forwards coach from South Fremantle, joining us here on Around the Waffle. Great to get a bit of a background in as well, involved in football in various ways, coaching at Claremont from a very young age. At 17, that is just unbelievable, and doing a great job with the NGAs at the Fremantle Dockers. Magnificent stuff. This game, Matty, oh gee, you gotta just love a derby final, whether it be the men's or the women's competition. It just gets the adrenaline pumping. East Fremantle versus South Fremantle, live on the Waffle YouTube channel from 12:30, and of course on Sport FM on Sunday. This game is going to be one for the books, you would say, because there's going to be a lot of heat, there's going to be a lot of spite, there's going to be plenty of passion.
Well, I like hearing Nat suggest that it's great to have a women's final that's a derby and that it should attract a bit of a crowd, because I've got the sense that in the past, maybe the women's program, some of the players or even some of the coaches didn't necessarily recognise just how big a derby is between the two Fremantle teams. So I really like that Nat acknowledged that, and also I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that coach's box with Craig White, maybe throwing a few expletives.
Hopefully not breaking some windows.
No, but this game, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I think that, it's the Ash Gomes Cup in a lot of ways, and, that's been a big talking point across the last year or so. East Fremantle, we know they've been a well-drilled side for a long time. They've been up for a while. This is a bit of a different-looking team. Probably the development has come along a lot quicker under David Eames, so that's been a real positive for South Fremantle. Pia Folletti, really good operator. Michaela Tahuka-Reina has been really good for them. I think, we talk about line breakers, game breakers. She's that type of player.
Same can be said with Kiana Lee, because she's been able to really play a great role in the forward line in the 3 weeks since she's come over to South Fremantle.
12 goals.
Unbelievable.
In that time. So I would have loved to have asked, Nat about that if we had a little bit more time with her, because she's a real danger. She's a threat, and you could see her tearing this game apart on the weekend.
She could, but I reckon East Fremantle have got a very strong backline. That is what really has stood out. Their ability to grind out low-scoring games with high-quality sides like the Bulldogs, who they beat in the second of the People's Derbies on the WA Day weekend. They were able to beat Claremont at home. They were able to beat Subiaco at home. If they can beat them, they can beat any side in the WAFLW competition. And I've been very impressed with, the prowess in the marking department from Macaulay, Leslie Repiccioli, who I thought has been very impressive this season as a defender ruck. She had a remarkable game on the WA Day Derby weekend, and also Tiani Teakle, unbelievable form she's been on, being able to really break the ice in those final couple of games, including the winning goal against West Perth last week. This game is a 50-50. It's a derby final. Anything can happen. We've got to throw in our tips. I'm honestly torn. I don't know who to pick, but I've got to pick one, and I'm going East Fremantle.
Yeah, I'll go opposite to you because I'm a South Fremantle man, so I'm going to go Souths.
That's definitely with your heart, not with your head.
Yeah, no, not necessarily. I mean, it was a 1-point game. I like Kiana Lee coming in. Like you said, I think that's been a real coup for them. And the Bulldogs have kicked some fairly big scores in recent weeks, so I don't know if the Sharks' backline will be able to hold them as well as you may suspect. Shout out Kai Klukas, who is a great young player. She's going to be a star for East Fremantle in years to come, but has a feet in both camps a little bit too, with that South Fremantle connection there with their old man. And I don't know, I think she might even be doing a bit of work at the Bulldogs too.
Correct, yeah.
Shout out Kai, but I'm looking forward to this game. I'm going to lean the Bulldogs just.
No second chances for the Fremantle teams as the People's Derby reaches the finals. It's going to be a beauty on Sunday, but that's not the only final we've got in store. course, the second semi-final coming up on Sunday as well. Swan Districts taking on Claremont the third time these two sides have met. The ledger is at 1 apiece, and the reigning premiers are determined to make it a 2-1 ledger in their favour. Jack Schwarze, the coach, the number one coach in the WAFLW competition, state coach, premiership coach. The resume speaks for itself, and he's good enough to join us here on Around the Waffle to look ahead to this big game. Hello, Jack.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me. G'day, Matt.
Jack. Great to have you on the show. Big game on Sunday, this one, and you'd feel that yourself and Swan Districts really have got a great modern rivalry going. You've played some great clashes, including that grand final last year, and obviously the round 1 game didn't go your way, but you fought back in round 8. How's the confidence amongst the playing group after a strong finish to the home and away season?
Yeah, it's a good little rivalry. It's a little bit different than the East Freo one, where everything was close. Whereas last grand finals obviously close, but this year with 2 completely opposite blowouts, which certainly makes it a little bit more interesting coming into it. But we're confident. We love playing at this time of year. We just get to play more footy, which is the best thing. So yeah, we're ready to go.
How intently do you look back on those games in preparation for this one?
We looked a little bit, and just to see, why things went one way or the other, and see if there were any sort of trends. And we've found a few trends, but they're the kind of trends that we sort of know anyway. Whereas, it's probably more about looking at the last 7 or 8 games and what we've been doing in the lead up to finals and what the form sort of shows.
Would it be fair to say that this year for your side's been a bit more tougher, because obviously the rest of the competition is really starting to catch up to the likes of the top 4? You were challenged by East Fremantle on both occasions. You got beat by them earlier in the season, and you've been able to grind out wins against a gallant Perth and also just failed against Subiaco. So would you say that the season has been a lot more challenging on that basis? And in that extent, has it just grown the resolve of your team?
Yeah, massively so. The competition, as it grows, it just gets more and more competitive. And the likes of Peel, they've obviously had a tough year, but they're still really competitive in terms of the style that they play. And then East Perth as well, I feel tough for them, because the amount of growth that East Perth have done is phenomenal, and we can see it in their style and their execution. But everybody's growing, and they've ended up in a fairly similar position despite how much they've grown. But that then challenges us, and it challenges the Swan Districts who they've risen to the top as well. And yeah, it does. It gives us a little bit more resolve to have to battle it out. I heard a quote from, I think it was Alistair Lynch, watching the Brisbane Lions game against, I think, Giants maybe a couple of months ago, where he spoke about when you're a team at the top for so long, like the Brisbane Lions have, every team plays their grand final against you when they come up against you, and that's what we've felt all year. Every team seems to play their best footy when they come up against us, because they need to bring it out, and that's been really good for us to have to deal with every team really rising to the challenge and showing what they can do. It's very exciting.
All right, without giving too much away, you mentioned that you've looked at the last 7 weeks or so in the build-up to these finals. What sort of trends have you picked out? And obviously you're so good with that contested game, so I'm sure that's going to be a bit of a difference come the weekend on Sunday.
Yeah, well, it's sort of comparing the phases of the game and what suits us and where the numbers are sort of showing. I do love numbers and stats, and being able to see what sort of story the stats tell. And we match up really, really evenly with Swan Districts. So many of our strengths and phases are also theirs as well. But we're both really consistent across the board, so it's not like one of us is a really good attacking team and the other one's defensive. We're both really good offensively, we're both good around stoppages, we're both good defensively, lots of similarities there. So it's trying to find the little subtle parts to the game that we need to exploit, and what we're going to look at, throughout the game, and just go, hey, if we're even with them in this area or that area, then we're pretty happy with that. And which are the areas that we need to sort of nullify them or be able to grow ourselves.
Split right down the middle, both sides, no doubt, and the depth that your sides have got is nothing short of A grade. It's absolutely magnificent, and we're going to see that put to the test by not just your side, but also Jason Burton's side on Sunday. Thanks so much for your time, Jack Schwarze. All the very best in what is going to be another big finals campaign.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
Jack Schwarze, the Claremont coach, champion all round, joining us here on Around the Waffle. And what a game it's going to be on Sunday. 11:45, live on the Waffle YouTube channel, second semi-final. Swan Districts and Claremont, Matty, looking to book the first ticket to the big dance.
Yeah, I think Swans are, well, we saw last year they fell so short, so there has been that fire in the belly, and they've been up for so long. Can Claremont sort of get underneath them and come through and make the grand final? I think there's a real threat there. They play a real hard contested game, the Tigers. Jamie Harkin's a star. We know that. She's so experienced. She's pretty much done it all. Hayley Bullis has come in and playing some fantastic football for them. There has been a bit of turnover for Claremont, so for them to figure out a way to stay relevant and stay up the top, credit to Jack Schwarze and his team there. But Swans, they've just been so good for so long this year.
They're just a level above last year at the moment because they've got the fire in the belly and they've played like they've got a point to prove. That defeat last year has really seen them go up a level, especially with Jamie Henry, of course, winning our Player of the Year 4 weeks ago. But you've also got, you talked about Ash Sharp, Gemma Slice, Summer Yaron, all are having breakout years as a result of this. So it's come from direct motivation.
Yeah, they're a pretty quick team. So I think they, if they can get it on the outside, they can start to carve Claremont up a little bit. I know Claremont's defence will be pretty strong and pretty tight in there. But yeah, I think Swans, like I said, they have a forward line that's pretty potent. So I'll lean towards them in a really tight game. I think it could be 1 point in it again.
The ruck battle could be very telling. Of course, Quaife and Anderson, who have both starred in the ruck for both sides this year. And they both give first use to their players so effectively, and I reckon that's going to be the key. Who's going to give their team the better first use out of the centre? Because they both do it so well.
Yeah, I think Claremont, like I said, they play that real contested game, so they won't really necessarily mind who's winning the hit-outs if they can sort of beat you up there in the middle a little bit. But if it spills to the outside, like I said, I think Swans maybe just, and being at home gives them the slight advantage for me. So,
but Claremont did beat them badly at Steel Blue Oval back in round 8. Keep in mind. So I reckon home field advantage. Throw that out the window.
But it's finals. It's different. It's a little bit different. I think
different
personally.
Kettle of fish. No doubt about that. The Harkin Henry matchup. That too is going to be a good one to watch.
Yeah, sensational. I mean, you've got a multiple-time Dara Kerr medal winner. Has won multiple BOGs on grand final day. Jamie Harkin and Jamie Henry looking to sort of do something similar, I guess, to a Jamie Harkin in her career. And Jamie will probably win the Dara Kerr medal this year.
She will, mate. She will. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, which Jamie, though? That's
Jamie Henry.
Jamie Henry, I think so, too.
Mate, I said this on Sport FM yesterday. If Jamie Henry does not win the Dara Kerr medal, my head will literally explode. It will detach itself from its neck because I will lose my marbles.
She's played really consistent football, getting a lot of people.
So,
great matchup. One of the best coming up in the competition.
I will agree. I'm going the Swans as well, but in another close one. It should be a real cracker over there at Steel Blue Oval. Both games are on Sunday. You do not want to miss it. And, of course, we'll have the Around the Waffle breakdown in the WAFLW final. We're going to come to you from the Good Grocer Park for that first semi-final, and we'll give you updates as well on that second semi-final taking place at Steel Blue Oval. So keep your eyes and ears peeled on our Facebook and Instagram channels. We're going to wrap it up this week, Maddie, with a second instalment of the Around the Waffle Flashback. And how fitting, Swans and the Tigers are involved in this one. They've clashed in some memorable finals and grand finals in recent years, but we're going back to 2010. Now, Maddie, what were you doing in 2010?
What was I doing in 2010? I was still in high school, and one of my high school teachers was playing in that game, in Nick Chidsey.
Ooh.
And he had a brilliant game, actually, but he missed a goal late. He kicked a point, and then it went down the other end, and Cracker, well, he produced one of the all-time great individual games, maybe the greatest I've ever seen. Went down the other end, kicked that game-winning goal to have 40 and kick 4. So, it was a brilliant game of football. One of the best games I've seen, maybe the best WAFL grand final. I might have the 79 Fremantle Derby up there, maybe just pipping it. But this was a brilliant game to watch live. And, you know, you look at the Swan Districts team, they had a brilliant lineup, some, you know, AFL level talent in your, Caniglios and Cracker, like I said, but Ash Hansons, these sorts of guys, Sonny Walters. So they were sensational back then, and so were Claremont. So it made for just a thrilling game. It was pretty high scoring, and that was back in the day when grand finals still were attended pretty well at Subiaco Oval.
Absolutely, and you might have just alluded to that game as we go to our Around the Waffle flashback this week. Of course, it was one of the all-time great grand finals, Claremont and Swan Districts in the 2010 decider.
Clearly the two best teams in the 2010 WAFL season have arrived here at Grand Final Day. The minor premier Claremont up against Swan Districts.
He's touched off the boot. Foster has it. Back to Richardson. He was on his non-preferred side, so he gives it to Chidsey. He's a right footer. Sends it goalwards. It's Nick Chidsey. Kicked the first goal. He has. From right full forward, Nick Chick found Robinson in the middle of the ground. Hand passes now to Davis. Forward goes Swan Districts. Lovely kick from Davis onto the chest of a leading Hanson. He's working hard. Knocks it out for Canelio. He breaks clear. Can he kick a second goal? Onto the left boot, if you don't mind, the young man. Foster been a reliable source of goal all year. Comes in and he's threaded it through. Very good goal by the Tigers. And I think I made the comment.
In turn then towards Anderson. Anderson short. Walton on the Tigers logo. Drills it to Richardson inside 50. Richardson would normally be the man they'd be looking for now. He, though, is in defence. He kicks it out wide to Shammer. Away he goes. We know he's got good wheels. Goes short and in yet marks.
Contest as possible. This is Chidsey. He's already kicked one. In fact, it was the first goal of the grand final. Left full forward pocket, makes no mistake about it, so Claremont draw first blood, 3.5 minutes into Richardson, who's had the job on Ian Richardson this afternoon. Paul Richardson, centering kick, good spoil by Swan Districts, although it went straight to Roberts, couldn't get a lot of distance in the kick, forced to go very high. Simpson underneath it, takes the uncontested mark. Well, he was camped underneath it for a long, long time. But another behind in Claremont with the ball through Ian Rowe.
They kick one goal, six lately, turnover, looking for Brabazon, gaping. Won't miss from there. Horrible effort by Ian Rowe.
Struggling for options, so he kicks it to space at centre half forward. That was the right option because Robinson ran into that space, gives it to Canelio. He's already got 2 goals. He's now got 3. What a young star he is of the future.
Bit of indecision by Laurie. Evades the tackle and feeds it back to Mitchell. At centre half forward, short. Richardson takes the grab. They need a steadier here, the Tigers. They haven't kicked the goal in the last 20 minutes. Richardson hooks it out wide. Shammer, don't always like his finish, but he gets it there. Shammer drills it home for his first. To culminate the season. Simpson ran past the footy. Roberts applies the shepherd on Mitchell. The ball dribbles free. Simpson socketed forward. Walters off to Cracker. 51 out. No one in the goal square. And the Sandover medal kicks it. Ian Rose cribbed inboard. Gets around the lunge of Davis. Now goes long. It'll land in the shadows. 20 metres out. Riggio launches. Big fist. Spills to ruck. Check side to full forward. Chidsey marks and gets his third. Well, he's got the first goal of each half. And now Claremont's first of the third quarter.
Quite remarkable. So he's recovered well. Ruck down to Foster. Throws it onto his right boot. A high one. A big pack in the goal square. It's bounced through. Or was it touched? I don't think so. Goal is going to be registered to Claremont.
Talon Ames is furious.
Foster kicked the goal. I'm not sure it wasn't touched. I had the glasses on it.
Can Claremont manufacture a mark? In fact, Stevenson forced to give the ball off to Rowe, who was closest. He goes long. Swans need to spoil. Big lead, big mark. Crawford has marked it. The clock hits 29 minutes. David Crawford lining up for his second. And the Tigers are back in front by 5 points. Hand pass over the top. With it is Roach. Almost fell over. Hand pass is now off to Toomey. Toomey off the outside of the boot. Swans must mark. Well done. Knocked down by Stevenson. Cracker gathers, shoots, and Swans have won the grand final. There it is. Swans have ended a 20-year drought, knocking off the minor premier by 1 solitary point. Brian Dawson ends his coaching career. It lasted just 3 years, and it ends with a WAFL League Premiership.
Oh, what about it, Matty? You can't ask for any better than a finish like that.
Yep.
Cracker getting the winning goal. He won the Simpson medal to go with his Sandover medal win earlier in the week. And Swans winning their first flag in 20 years by a single point. And that was the last game for Brian Dawson as coach. Business commitments took him out of the coaching role for 2011 and beyond. But that's the best way to go out, isn't it? We saw that with Hayden Schloeth last year. And we saw that with Brian Dawson in 2010, a premiership in his final game.
Yeah, what a great coach, great football person, a really good development type of guy. And that Swan Districts team, it was stacked. I don't know if they've managed to really repeat what they did there in some of their recruitment and some of the great young players that did come through at that time. It'll be nice to see them get back up there and compete in a grand final again. How good would it be to see like a Swan Districts Perth in a grand final at some point?
Oh, yeah.
In the near future. And I think that would get a lot of people through the gates at Optus or wherever it may be. Is it going to be at Optus moving forward, or is it going to go to a local ground, in your opinion?
I think I'm happy either way because you still get an exciting contest. But I think, having it at the big stadiums is pretty much the norm these days. You see it in the SANFL at the Adelaide Oval, but they do it so differently.
Yeah, but
that's why they get the bigger crowds.
But they get 30 to 40,000 there.
I would love to see it at the WACA. If the WACA does eventually have the moment when they can get drop-in pitches, if they do, I'd love to see it there.
Yeah, I think that's a viable option. Leaderville was great when it was there in 22. Fremantle Oval was pretty good when it was in 20. COVID year, albeit.
Still, it was a great atmosphere and a good game.
Yeah, I do think if less and less people are going to come through the gates, local ground is the way to go because the atmosphere is fantastic and it's a hot ticket then.
Well, the VFL do it to an extent. They've done it in recent years at Princes Park.
If we can get more people like the Samfel do and like they promote it, they probably promote their history a little bit better to get those extra 10,000 through the gates, really. So if we can do that, then I'm happy to have it at Optus.
Well, for what it's worth, 24,638 attended that day in 2010 at Subiaco Oval. Bright sunny day, and Swan Districts made it a day to remember, winning by a point. Matty, thanks so much for joining us today. Good luck in the South Freo East Perth game that you're calling on Sport FM. Big weekend of footy as we get down to the business end.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Like I said, it's essentially the finals begin this weekend almost in a lot of ways because it'll be big differences with Subi West Coast, South Fremantle East Perth in particular, two massive games, and it'll be a thrill to be able to be there for one of those in the South Freo East Perth game for Sport FM.
It'll be a cracker. All the best with the call, and I'll see you here next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matty. All the best, mate, and all the best to our listeners and viewers. Enjoy the big weekend of footy it is going to be, not just on Saturday, but also on Sunday in the WAFLW final series, where, as one legend says, the cream rises to the top to the Premiership. See you next time. Dig it!